Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video, and day 2 of showing off like 6 or 7 different teams to clear EX2 of the new Beatdown Battle to get the free dupes of Gazel. Yesterday, we showed off like 6 teams that were able to clear it. Most of them were green. I think all of them were actually green-focused teams. Today, we're going to break it up. We've got a few green teams. We also have a few blue orb teams. Even though blue orbs are technically nerfed a little bit in the stage, I'm going to prove to you that it's not that big of a deal. But as I said in the first video, this is a guide. It's not meant to be like the perfect team building thing. A lot of these teams you may have some bits and pieces you'll have to replace, so just use it as information, and you're going to have to team build based on what you have available. If you have some but not all, then make some substitutions and try and get it done that way. If you haven't watched the first video, that has a lot of teams you can watch and see if that works for you. Today I've got a lot of teams, and tomorrow I've got a lot of teams. So please just use your head. You know, you can ask questions, but I can't build a team for literally every single player because everyone's boxes are different. So with that said, let's get started. Editing Joker here. Before I jump in, some of the clips might be a little bit weird in their intros because I had to cut and paste and figure out where each team was going to go. I hadn't really finalized it, so I think this first one says the last video, last section of the video, but it's actually the first, so just bear with me. Alright, I think the last team for this video is going to be the Octagram Demon Lord team, so the Part 1 banner of the 3rd anniversary. The Unbound Guy, the Unbound Milim, we have Unbound Isis as well. We brought Violet, we brought Shinsha from the antagonist meta, and then we got Ogre's Pride Soe here as well, which I don't know if a lot of people are going to have. If you have the Unbound Kyokyo, you could just put him here instead. And this team has enough raw burst power damage to kill even with the ult resistance up, so this run does not take very long at all. And it doesn't really require all that much thought. We have the rainbow orbs with the Milim, so we can get that taken care of. Shinsha's going to be buffing the Dark Milim's ult damage by 100%. We're not going to be piercing here, because no one here is giving pierce. But Soe is going to give us synergy power, at least 50% of it. So we'll bring Milim in. This is going really slow. Whatever. We'll bring Milim in, and then we'll bring Shinsha in. And we'll just send the 4 greens turn 1. And then, I think with traits, we should be able to get a protector on turn 2. If you don't have the traits to do that, you just burn turn 2 and just try and get enough orbs to get them. So yeah, we do. So thankfully there's that. And then, I don't remember what we did yesterday for this. Alright, we've used the Milim buff and the rainbow orbs. Now we're going to use Guy. This gives us the Lord's Ambition effect, which puts 30% weakness resistance down on them, which is not really that much of a deal, because Milim is dark and we're type neutral. So we'll send this entire full hand. The resistance down for like the elements, that does help Milim do a bit more damage. And we're piercing and synergy, so she has no resistance against that. We're doing full damage there. And now, we need just a tiny bit more ult gauge for Milim. And we can definitely get that here with some rainbow orbs. So let's do it again. And I don't even think we use Guy. I think we just send it. Yeah, so we get the EX ult. Perfect. Trying to think who we swap out. We could bring Isis in instead of Shinsha, because she's type advantage and she's in the unbound state. She'd do extra damage versus Milim, but oh well. So we've got the EX ult for Milim. That's great. And we've got an ult for Shinsha as well, which is also cool. So we'll use the big time magic buff now, and we'll hold on to that. We can bring Soe in for Shinsha. Okay, we bring him in for Milim. Either way, whatever works. So both of them come out. We can use Guy. We've almost got another Guy gauge, so this 6 orbs of greens will get us there. And we'll just simply send this, and we'll get some ult for Violet as well. Now we're going to nuke while the resistance is up. Do I recommend that for some people? Maybe not. If you're lacking some damage, you can just wait an extra turn and nuke on turn 6, and you'll be perfectly safe then. But I think we nuke here, and we're gonna not have really any troubles. So let's use the Isis debuff. Magic resistance down, 120%. Alt resistance down is huge. And then we'll bring Milim in, who already has the magic buff from Violet. So we're not gonna nuke with Violet. We'll take her out. And then we'll bring Shinsha in for Isis, since we can't use the Drago buff because it's sealed. And now we have enough points to use the Soe buff, which is attack for magic allies, and then 50% synergy power, which Milim already has her synergy rate up. And then we'll do the alt buff. And now we're going to do a lot of damage here. Shinsha does 192. Alright, that's not a lot. But Milim, she does 1.6 million damage. The other Milim only had 1.3 to begin with, so we overkilled by 300,000 right there, with the alt resistance up still, so we would have done so much more there. So there you go. That is able to brute force through. If you are lucky and somehow got the Octagram Demon Lord team, you can definitely run that, but I don't know if many people will. Alright, the next two teams I'm going to show together, because you either have them or you don't. It's the two collab metas, which ironically are both green stacking. We have the Overlord meta in the top left, and then on the bottom right we have the Idol Master meta. So they both work. They're fine. They're gonna do a lot of damage. For the Overlord team, we've got Overlord Reamer, who is stacking element buffs, who is resetting and giving us extra skill points. We've got Nabe, Dark Milim, and Veldora as orb changers, Overlord Shizu as a damage support, and then we're actually going to use Albedo, because she's a single target space nuker. Nuker, I say very lightly. We won't be able to use her Vengeance skill or her stun, because they're both body and spirit skills, so she's actually kind of shit in this fight, but hey, I wanted to get some use out of her because she's space. And yeah, you just stack. You got 3 orb changers there. Veldora's got the green buff. Milim's got the alt buff. You know, it works fine. And then for the Idol Master team, it actually runs a lot better. So Rimuru, if you're pretty Sparkle, which 4 of those characters are, then you will be invincible, which means you won't take any damage. And we haven't really had a problem so far with dying in this fight, so it's kind of inconsequential. But he is changing 3 blues and 3 oranges into 6 greens. He's giving you the invincibility effect if you're pretty Sparkle, which Isis is not, so she's the only one who would take damage. And he's stacking 12% magic attack every time you use him. Now, Isis with her green buff and her orb change will handle turn 1, just like Nabe will handle turn 1 up top. And then we've got Shizuka, who's got the live mode, which is 2% extra stacking attack per green orb, so on any given perfect hand of 6 greens, you're getting 12% attack alongside the 12% magic attack that Rimuru is stacking. And then she's got a 20% stacking weakness strike buff, which if we give that to Shinsha, Space Shinsha, who is on Pretty Sparkle, she's a single target space character. Nuke her lightly, but she is going to be invincible, and she is going to be a recipient of magic attacks and normal attacks and weakness strike. So that works out really well. We have Idol Shuna, who came out for this meta as well, guaranteed synergy and 40% synergy power for magic allies, which everyone is, and she's got the alt swap if we need it. Mirai also has the live mode, so 2% attack per green. They don't work together, like you can't use Mirai's live mode and Shizuka's live mode and magically get 24% attack. You have to use one or the other, and so it works out really well because Rimuru passively resetting your skill costs up front, so you use like one live mode for Mirai, and then the next turn you use Shizuka's, and then the next turn you go back to Mirai, and you just kind of just flip back and forth. And then Mirai's other skills, a future hand of greens, which can be useful, I guess, if you need to. And then Shinsha has her own alt buff. We can't use her charm and hammer effect because it's sealed, but she's got the alt buff, we've got the attack buffs, we've got the synergy, we've got the weakness strike, we've got the magic attack. So both teams are stacking in some way, shape, or form, and they're going to help you do a lot of damage. The Idol team is actually doing more because you're stacking a lot more damage a lot faster than what the Overlord team is doing, but you can still, either team can get the job done. It's just that do you have the access to these teams? Were you playing during the Overlord or Idolmaster collab? The Idols came out Christmas, December of 2023, and then Overlord came out in February, March of this year. So if you weren't playing back then no, you won't have these units. I know it's actually a great shame that no one can get Overlord Shizu now. She's such a good character. Hopefully one of the new meta characters for Divine General kind of is a hard replacement for her, because she's been so good for so long. It really sucks that people can't get her, and we need someone to replace her. So the Idols, you can see, they're done. Like, they cleared it in 8 turns. We're on turn 8 with the Albedo Overlord team. We are nowhere close to finishing that. So we just have to continue alting and continue lowering the HP down. And even this EX alt, like 199 right there, Albedo, she does 418, but it's not actually enough to kill. Kind of unfortunate. So she's going to heal back. And then we would just have to build up and nuke again. So we'll just cut to that turn, which is turn 10. And she survived with a nut tap of HP. So there we go. 56k, whatever. So turn 11. So we didn't quite get that mission done because we got kind of unlucky and the nuke didn't kill originally. But both teams are able to clear if you have them. If you were one of those people who lack self-control and you summon for the Protector of Peace meta, then yeah, it'll work because it's a green stacking team. 2 characters are type disadvantage, but it still works out. So Masayuki is kind of doing what Elmisia is doing, resetting skill costs, allowing you to use skills an unlimited number of times, stacking a little bit of attack depending on how many attacks you can do. With this team, you actually can get more than Elmisia, but it requires you to have Shion and Hinata. So, I don't know if anyone's going to have this team. Just like I don't know if people are going to have the Overlord or Idol team. That's why we put them in video 2. To video 1, people are going to pay attention to. Video 2 is for these one-off teams. This, actually, I have one more green team after this. That'll be like a weird substitute kind of option. But, I went through the spreadsheet of metas that came out, and I pretty much just went up the list, being like, all right, let's try out all these teams. And, not Prosper, but Protectors of Peace, it's there. It's not that old, and by all logic, a stacking green team should be able to clear this, even if we are type disadvantaged, because it does have a lot of power, right? Shion's got water attack and crit damage, and Hinata's got stacking alt damage and the multi-hits, and Rimaru's got the guaranteed crits and the 150% alt damage. Like, it has a lot of power, and even though we are type disadvantaged, we're going to be able to overcome that and still nuke fairly well. We just have to get there, and by getting there, that requires you to use a lot of skills, use all of the different weird gimmicks of this team efficiently to get the maximum amount of attack and extra protection gauge. We've got Overlord Shizu here again because she's such a goddamn good unit that we're going to alt swap away, and Weakness Strike doesn't do anything because no one is type advantage here, but the alt resistance down does matter. And the alt swapping matters if you really have to bring someone. You can bring, like, Idol Shuna. No one's going to get the synergy power, but hey, whatever. At least you have a double alt swapper. So, yeah. Protectors of Peace. It's not a great team because it heavily relies on gimmicks of 2 different characters. The Elmisia team, Divine General, definitely requires you to have Diablo for the free, or the, not, well, it is free, but the multi-use skills per turn, but he's on a triple featured unit banner, right? That, like, there's value in summoning for that banner. The Protector of Peace team is, Hinata and Shion came out on single banners, and they are the most required units in this team. So that immediately is like it's not good value, which is why I didn't recommend people summon for this team, and I don't really think it's that good because of how limited it is, but anyone can make arguments for the Divine General team as well. Let's just cut ahead. It's okay, it's turn 7. We've got an EX alt for Dark Hinata, so she's single target and she's type neutral, so it's better off probably nuking with her than it is Shion or Rimaru. I don't know, Shion's got that personal water attack buff. Hinata doesn't have any personal buff. She's mainly support, but we're going to make her nuke like she's not a support character. So let's use the Shizu buff, which is just alt resistance down at this point. We'll use Rimuru's guaranteed crits, and then we'll use the other buff from Shion, which is alt resistance down. And then we have enough points to... We have to use enough points to then get the crit resistance down with Hinata up to that magical 100%. So we're going to have to finagle a few things here before we get to that level. So boom, boom. All right. We're doing something here. All right, orb change. Now we can use this in the physical buff and the crit resistance, and Hinata does 1.3 million. So it can definitely do it. It's just, again, do you have this team? Hopefully not. Let's move on. Surprise! I hid some meta units in the part 2 video. Protector Chloe, very old. Came out within the first 5 months, 4 months of the game. But she technically can be classified as a stacking green protector. She changes all orange orbs to greens, which is great. She gives you a 40% alt buff for 3 turns, so you don't need to worry about alt buffing with her. And then she also raises your skill cap by 40. So we can use her, and we just need to bring converters for blue orbs, which Isis, Trya, that'll work. We've got Octagram Space Millum as a space character. Okay, cool. We've also got Diablo and Raphael, just for funsy onesies, because they have just a butt ton of power. But they're not underneath Almesia now. We're not going to be able to use a whole lot of stacks of Raphael's personal, or well, not personal, but his synergy power and alt damage. We're going to have to be limited to probably 2 or 3 uses of that before it gets a little bit too expensive to use. We're not bringing a character who gives us a lot of skill points inherently, so we're pretty much just running off of the 50% buff that Isis is giving. But because we have 2 EX Unbound characters who are meant to be used in this fight, and they have such raw power, 120% element buff for space and dark, and then Diablo's 100% synergy power, it doesn't really matter because we're going to be able to kill. And we don't need to worry about orange orbs, really, because Chloe will just change them. It could be a whole hand of oranges and she would change it. And she's giving you 40% alt damage, which isn't a lot nowadays, but it is a buff that you don't have to worry about on one of your battle skills. You can bring something else instead. If you didn't want to bring Octagram Millum because you don't have Octagram Millum or you don't have her done, then you don't have to. You could bring someone else to give magic attack or something, like Rain or Violet. That'll work. You're going to have the points for it. So this is fairly simple. I mean, we have an alt with Space Millum, Octagram Millum. We'll use her 2 buffs and we'll send her away because we don't need to nuke right stat now. We've got an alt with Raphael. I think we're just going to send it. So orb change there. We'll bring Trya in. And as long as she comes in for Diablo, we can use her 2 converts, get a whole hand of greens. And then do we use Chloe? Do we not use Chloe? Do we get extra 40 points, or do we just kind of let it ride? We're going to use her because we're going to make back a lot of that because of this green and the green buff. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, okay, we're going to hold the Raphael buff. Well, that works too. We're still making back points. So now we have his EX alt, and we know how much damage he does. Even in a non-optimized setting, he's going to do a lot. So we'll get... nope, too expensive. So we got 0, 20, 40. So we got 3 stacks of Raphael overall. That's a far cry from the 25 stacks we're getting in his own team. Doesn't matter though, because we're going to be able to kill here, and it's not that big of a deal. So let's go ahead and jump forward a little bit to the nuke, because at this point we're just holding buffs and getting enough points to nuke. And we're on turn 8 now. Okay. We're building up points. We need to be able to use the 180 points from both the 90-point skills of Diablo and Raphael. And now we are there. We have 195. We've already used the Millum buff, so we don't need to worry about that. We don't need to worry about orb changing because we're going to have more than enough power. All the defenses from Millum are gone. Alt resistance, the crit. So even if we naturally crit, it would do a lot of more extra damage. And now we have 40% alt damage, 120% element, and 100% synergy power. And even Octagram Millam's getting that because she's space and the synergy power is unrestricted. So let's send Millam first for funsies. Or we'll send Diablo first to give Raphael extra weakness strike, which I think we've done like twice now. Yeah, he does 73, not a lot. Millam, 644, and then Raphael, 1 million. Excellent. So there, I think, is the final green team that I have recorded for EX2. And now we move into the blue teams. Hey, did you know that the second anniversary of Visions of Coleus team is still pretty good? It also does extra damage against wind enemies, which this is a wind enemy. So we're going to be just fine. We've got Lumi, we've got Ogre's Pride Soe, who is definitely not needed. Like, you don't need to bring him. I just brought him because his orb change is useful, and we're getting synergy power anyways. So he's a very good pick for the Visions of Coleus team, but you could literally put just like Water Rimuru here, and we would be fine, because we have more than enough power, especially with everyone on this team, minus Soe getting the extra damage buff. Violet and Jean are space single targets. Blanc is a single target as well. We do extra damage against wind already, so this is not a difficult team to run. And even though blues are nerfed by 50%, 50% is not as impactful as you would think it is, especially with a team that is just outputting such raw damage. So we do have rainbow orbs as well to try and supercharge us. So we got a good Violet hand right here, and that leaves us with 40 points. So we're going to supercharge them. We'll just take Violet out. We'll put a stack of Lumion, 12% attack for these characters, plus guaranteed synergy, which we are definitely going to take advantage of that. So every time we send orbs at this point, we're going to get more and more damage on Millam. So we'll bring Rimuru in. Violet doesn't have any orbs, so that's why she got swapped out. Full hand of rainbows. We'll bring Soe in now, and we'll send this, and we're going to do, just more and more and more damage. 30k a hit right now is pretty good. Considering some units in like the last two videos, they were doing 30k on their alts. So we're going to be okay. Alt swap away. We can use Soe's orb change. It hits any two orbs that are not blue and turns them into blue, so these two greens can be swapped, and then we can bring Violet in. And even though the blues are nerfed now, we do have a couple stacks of Lumi to use, which is extra skill points. The blue protection gauge, even at 50%, is still a decent amount. It's not optimal, but it's still a decent amount. Like, yeah, look at that. We're still getting almost a double stack right there. And we're getting alts because of the rainbow orbs, so we've supercharged that. So, I mean, we could probably nuke next turn, probably, once we have enough points to use everything. Ideally, we want to use all the buffs. So the 2 buffs from Jean, the 1 buff from Blanc, the buff from Violet, and the big time buff from Soe. But in the event you can't, it's not that big a deal, because I think when we actually nuke with Jean, we do way too much damage. Way too much damage. The drop off on our orb damage is because the rainbows were not affected by the debuff, versus these blues are being cut in half. So that's why the damage took a nosedive, in case you're wondering. So orb change, okay, cool. We'll bring Rimuru in to convert that one singular orange orb, and then we'll bring Violet in. We'll do the alt swap away, and we're getting points now. So alt swap, boom. 2 stacks of Lumi. I think we're now capped out on the skill point gain. We've got the protection gauge on Blue Charm to give us extra stacks of Protector. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, we're getting 269 points. It's not terrible. We're doing good damage. And we're pretty much about ready to nuke now. Do we go... How far more do we go? Because we have the EX ult with Jean. We have 339 points. I think we just need a little more. I think we just need a little bit more. I think I just wanted the Lumi right there. Yeah, I mean, we don't have a Violet ult. Not a big deal. Natural hand of blues, though. That's cool. Okay, we're going to send it. So we're going to nuke on turn 9 for funsy onesies. We would have killed 3 turns ago, probably. But this will get us to max points. This will allow us to use literally everything available, because I like big numbers, and we're going to get a solid number here with this 1-year-old team in a stage that doesn't really want blues to be used, but certainly we're going to get around that. So buff, 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 buff. And then we need to use like one more skill, and that'll give us the access to the full power of Soe. Yeah. Boom. All right, and then we need to activate synergy with Lumi, and now we're going to nuke Wuxian, and it's going to be hilarious. So, one ult, and she does 7.5 million damage. That's pretty good for a 1-year-old team in a stage that blues aren't supposed to be run on, right? But it's just the raw power of this team. So Visions of Coleus really can get the job done. And that will do it for part 2 of 4 of the series for clearing EX2. A lot of green teams. We started into the blue teams with Visions of Coleus. Can definitely get the job done. I think they made this team space on purpose, so people who were playing last year that maybe took a break can still kind of clear it this year. So I think that's nice, and I think it very much was intentional. But as always, if you have found any other teams that worked that are a mishmash of a whole bunch of units, please put it down in the comments so other people can see it. I still have 2 more videos with teams going through this stage, so if this and the first video didn't work for you, maybe something in the the third or fourth ones do. So stay tuned. But that's it for me, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.